Hey everybody, welcome to the class. Tonight's class is about dealing with cynicism and apathy. And this is a topic obviously
Mm.
very important to both of us, but for me, I have been meaning to deal with my apathy for a long time. But you know what? I've just started to say, well, fuck it, right? And Leah, you can't laugh before the punchline of the joke.
It was fine. They heard they heard it.
We'll have to edit the timing later.
We'll have our production team get right on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a class in heart rhythm meditation. My name is Dr. Asatar Bear. My co-teacher here, Leah Schaefer, who
Hello.
has a new look tonight. You guys can tell, but it's still Leah.
This is my East Coast look.
That's right. Y'all didn't know that Leah's very smart, but that's true.
I feel much smarter in these, that's for sure.
Heart rhythm meditation, of course, comes out of Sufism, and
Mm.
Sufism is the path of the heart, right? So we want to really explore what is the heart, right? And we study this, we take the philosophy of it seriously, right? And we practice and teach that the heart has these different dimensions. So
Mm.
we thought, let's do a series on that. We'll do a 4-week, 4-part series all about these dimensions of the heart, right? So we're starting with the
Mm.
vertical dimension, right? So the vertical dimension includes the height of the heart and also the depth of the heart, right? And
Mhm.
these things are pretty much like what it sounds like, right? I mean, like that's the amazing thing about this teaching, this metaphor. When you say the height of your heart, right? It's like, what are the things that you hold in the most high
Mm.
esteem, right? That the principles, the ideals, um,
Mhm.
that which is sacred to you, right? And that you place highly, right, in
Mhm.
yourself, right? Um,
Mhm.
Now, we have different people have different ideals, right? And some people don't like to get into it, right? They don't like to say, oh, that's oh, that's too much, or I like to be practical or whatever, right? I don't because the reality is that when you get into an ideal, the thing about an ideal is that it doesn't exist, right? If it existed,
Right.
it wouldn't be ideal, you know. An ideal
It's
is
something like
arbitrary.
heightened to what doesn't exist yet. And like that's part of what
Exactly.
brings us joy is like it's like even it we'll experience this tonight, but even in reaching in the height of your heart, it's like this like up energy and you're
Yeah,
touching into something, you're tapping into something that's like brings you a lot of joy and like lifts your heart up, something that
exactly.
really lifts you up. And it's like we want to bring that down and through us to the best of our ability. And you'll
Yeah,
see that in the practices tonight.
totally. That's a
Yeah.
good point. And this. So how do we experience this, right? And what is this even good for, right? Like why might it be desirable to have this high ideal, right? Well, it gives you a sense of what's really important. It gives you a sense of like, well, what really matters. And now, okay, a lot of times we are occupied in our lives, especially in this capitalist hellhole that we're in, right? Where a lot of our lives are spent just getting by. And so dealing with like what is your highest ideal or whatever might strike you as kind of like not that important, right?
Spiritual bypassing.
How does that help me pay my rent or whatever, right? How
It
does that
keeps you
help me?
going.
Well, yeah, you need something that makes life actually worth living, right? I mean, because like we're getting
Hmm.
by for what purpose, right? I mean, like when you
Right.
when you start getting into that, right? Not just are you living, but what are you living for, right? What is the thing that really motivates you? Like
Mhm.
what gives your life meaning and purpose? And when you get into that realm, you are talking about the ideal. There's no question about it, right?
Mhm.
So, for some people it might be like, well, it's really important to me to serve others, right? To help others, or it's
Right.
really important to me to live my principles, or to have a clean conscience, or to like there's lots of different ways we might talk about this, right? But the ideal is like, it's like your compass, it's
Mhm.
easy to get lost if you don't have that sense of direction, um,
Totally.
and it feels good to have it, right? I mean, and we are
Mhm.
drawn to people that have high ideals, I mean, because
Mhm.
there's a certain spark in that, there's an excitement in that, right? A person that doesn't have that is missing something, really, right? And a person, you see a person with that, you're like, wow, right? That is captivating, even if it's not exactly yours, right? You can still feel it, right? You can feel the vibe of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, and to the flip side of this, so the fun thing, I want to touch on two different things, but the fun thing about the dimensions of the heart is like you'll actually be able to get a biofeedback system within yourself.
Mhm.
Hopefully, especially with practice, but usually people can feel something right away. Like, so when we're talking about the height of the heart, like, and we'll go through this, but you're gonna literally go from your heart and then breathe in above that, and you can actually get like a barometer because, for example, when I breathe into the height of my heart versus the depth of my heart, one of them might actually be much easier to breathe into than the other. So it's very subtle, nuanced way of getting to know your energy, the energy around your heart specifically, because our heart has a magnetic field that is like 60 times bigger than our mind. It's huge. We sit in our heart's magnetic field. And basically, but it's not like it's like whenever it's pictured, it's like this perfect sphere, right? But like in reality, it's our energy body kind of like dips and things like that. And you'll be able to
Mhm.
feel, especially over time with your own heart, like which parts are more difficult, which parts are not. And just to touch on Asatar's point about like this is when a height of a heart is like really energized, and that's what we're working on tonight. Is like we're going to energize these two, this one dimension of the heart, but the height and depth is the vertical dimension. Um,
Right.
but so on the flip side, so we're going to energize them, but on the flip side of when we have our ideals, when we feel the ideals, when we're going for it, is kind of the pain point of tonight of that cynicism, and they we really and also pessimism. It's like when we go for an ideal, sometimes we really get crushed, and our heart's energetic magnetic field like actually like really replicates that, and the energy goes way down, and you can
Right.
feel it. It's almost like you can feel it with people whose hearts are just crushed. You can definitely feel it for yourself.
Hmm.
And so maybe you're somebody that has had this for a long time, where it's almost like, and I want to get into this bit more later, but it's almost like a safety mechanism to stay in that cycle of apathy, cynicism, pessimism, etc. And so it's almost like a defense mechanism. I'm a realist, right?
Right.
Like, but it's like a realist bypassing. Sorry.
It, you know,
so,
it's like what happens when you have an
so
ideal, then you want to work towards it, right? You want to make it real.
mhm.
And when you do that, well, things might not work out, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
the world is full of variables and full of contradictions, and like,
Mhm.
just because you are acting out of your best, highest, whatever, right, doesn't mean you're going to necessarily be successful. And then if you experience a failure, oh my God, it's extra crushing, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not an ordinary failure. It's like a failure of that which you hold most high, right? And
Yeah.
oh, how easy is it then to become cynical, right? To say, well,
Mhm.
or to just sort of say, well, nothing matters,
Mhm.
and to not be able to hold on to that spark, that energy. Um,
Mhm.
but we and this is part of it, right? This is part of it. There's a beautiful saying from Hazrat Inayat Khan about this, because Hazrat Inayat Khan talks a lot about the importance of having an ideal, of cultivating that within yourself. And he says that the ideal is going to be different for each person, and that is very special, right? That is very sacred, and that's something to explore within yourself. But he also says, we are going when as we try to make it real, as we try to take steps towards it, it's inevitably going to fall short. It's inevitably going to be, as he puts it, shattered. Right? He says, shatter your ideals on the rock of truth. And what a thing to say, right? Like, for someone who is upholding this, right, and saying, yes, having an ideal is going to bring shattering. I mean, that's going to happen, right?
Mm,
But then
yeah.
how do we put it together, right? How do we continue to make that work, right? How do we bring it, and
Yeah.
you know, we bring it alive within ourselves, right? Um,
Mhm.
and you know, this is a big part of the spiritual path, right? So we want to just explore that tonight, um, and we're going to start with a meditation, just working on part of, so the vertical dimension contains both the height and the depth, right? And
Mhm.
so we're going to start off by talking about the height and trying to experience that. I'm going to do that one, and then Leah is going to come in
Yeah.
and help us understand and experience the depth, and that'll be our
Yeah.
second. So
Yeah. And so no matter where you are, if you've been having pessimism for a long time, or this is something that happened to you recently, or you think, oh, I don't have any of that, you should feel nice and energized through this. It'll help you no matter where you are. We're going to be super optimistic tonight.
bold
Okay.
claims, bold claims. Well, stay with us, and we'll see what happens.
That's my ideal tonight. Everyone will feel this.
Everyone
Okay.
will experience this. It'll be amazing.
Everyone will experience something.
Everyone will experience something. That's the promise we can.
Oh.
All right. Well, but get yourself ready to for meditation. So that nice, upright, energized posture, and that's especially important when you're dealing with the height, the vertical dimension, right? We want to have a good upright spine, but we want to be relaxed as much as we can within that structure, right? So maybe just roll your shoulders a little bit, move your neck around a little bit, and get yourself ready to come into alignment. And when you've done that, then you come to your center and you tune into your breath. And you start by just breathing down deep in your belly and allowing your belly to expand as you breathe in. Let your belly blow up like a big balloon. And then contract your abdominal muscles as you breathe out, drawing your belly button in toward your spine. And then we continue on and make the breath slow as well. Normally, we might take perhaps 20 or 22 breaths a minute. So we take a breath every few seconds. I'd like you to slow your breathing down so that each breath takes longer. By slowing your breath, you slow down your rhythm. It also gives you time to understand and savor and appreciate your breath, because the breath is life. And we want to understand life. We want to understand how that energy flows through us, and especially how it flows through our hearts. We want to make our breath heart-centered and also rhythmic. And we can do this at the same time by tuning into our heartbeat and synchronizing it with our breath, so that we breathe in for the same number of heartbeats as we breathe out for. Now, if you're just getting started with this, you might need to experiment a little bit and discover what count works for you. So this means you're counting the beats of your heart as you breathe in, and you're counting the beats of your heart as you breathe out. And make that number the same. I'd like you to work on this and practice this, if you would, right now, or maybe later as well, so that you can get to the point where you're breathing in for 8 beats and breathing out for 8 beats. Perhaps you can do that right away, or maybe that takes some time. Everyone's different, so just let yourself, experience that, whatever it is. If you can't do that right away, you say, well, what a challenge. How wonderful. And if you can, you say, great, look at this. I'm doing this. Don't let it be a bad thing either way. Now, by counting the beating of our heart and placing it in rhythm with our breath, we're synchronizing two of the fundamental rhythms of our life. And we're also focusing our attention on our physical heart. And now I want you to expand in your notion of what your heart is, and let it include what we mean by heart emotionally, what we mean by heart in poetry, in art. What we mean is where you hold all that you love, where you feel your emotions, where you hold that which is most sacred to you, where you connect with other people. That place within which is a safe haven, that place within you which is home. Now, there may be pain there as well, as there often is when we talk about love and the things that we value. I should say it more strongly, there will be pain there. Maybe you don't come in contact with that right now. Maybe that's not part of what you're experiencing right now. Maybe it is. Whatever it is, just breathe into it. Whatever that experience of heart is for you in this moment, just be with it and breathe there. And now redouble your efforts in the breath. Really contract your abdominal muscles and squeeze out all of the breath that you can from your lungs. And then breathe in, allow your belly to expand, and then allow your chest to expand as well, and bring the breath into your chest, expanding the sides of your body, the back, your rib cage, everything. You should feel the motion of your breath between your pelvis and your collarbones. So wow, that whole area should be moving, but moving in a slow, steady, subtle but powerful way. Right? You're not holding the breath, you're not interrupting the breath, you're allowing the breath to flow like a mighty river. And making that flow bigger by making your breath full, deep, rhythmic, heart-centered, and slow. And you might notice that this feels quite different to breathe in this manner than the normal way that you breathe. It's very energizing. So now I want you to take that energy and focus it in a particular direction. Okay, now focus it by breathing into your heart, right into the center of your chest. And as you breathe in, feel that energy rising within your heart. This is the height of your heart, that which you hold most high, most sacred. The principles, the ideals which are sacred to you. Maybe you don't have a clear sense of it, right? But just tune into that. Well, allow whatever comes up as I'm talking about this, right? Allow whatever comes up within you, to just be there. Maybe when I talk about that which you hold in the highest regard, I think about a person that you just admire, just utterly admire. What is it about them that you admire? What quality is that? This is an important clue to what is your ideal. Right? We admire in others what we want to develop, what we hope to develop in ourselves. And the same thing for what is, what we find annoying about others, right? What we find aggravating about others is like, well, that's what we fear is us, right? But these things are connected, right? They're just like our great strengths are so often connected to our great weaknesses. Right? Breathe in and just feel, what is it that I hold most high? Now, when you tap into this feeling and when it becomes strong in you, it becomes like your compass. You want to live your life around that, because that's where there's a tremendous amount of energy that gets released from that. A tremendous amount of joy that comes from being in that, from thinking about that, from talking about it with others, from seeking it out. And when you first discover this, a lot of times you proceed by negation. You look out in the world and you say, that's not it. That's not it. No, that's not it. My ideal is greater, higher, better. It's better than what I see around me. Because if it's something that you see around you, that's not an ideal, right? That's something that exists. And this is a limited world. Your ideal is unlimited. It is your sense of the unlimited. And that makes it very, very important, very special. We want to energize that. It's like how the sun is used in navigation. Why is that helpful? Well, because it's very far away, right? Well, it gives you a sense of what direction you're going in. And so your ideal gives you a sense of direction. It gives you a sense of meaning. It gives you a sense of purpose. We need this. It gives life meaning. But what happens when you then make efforts to try to move toward that? You try to make it real. Well, now you're bringing the ideal into the world of limitation. And that is going to be fraught with complexity, right? Just like anyone who's ever tried to do anything great, you're going to encounter resistance. You're going to encounter barriers. There's going to be obstacles. And sometimes there'll be setbacks. Sometimes there'll be defeats. And that can be so crushing. That can just strike you right to the core. It can shake your faith in people, in the ideal, in yourself. And this is inevitably what we find with people who have become cynical, right? You can't be cynical without an ideal. That's the amazing thing, right? The cynic always proclaims, oh well, just people are out to get you. They're no good, right? There's nothing, like all this, right? It's not going to work out, right? It's all this, that pessimistic kind of outlook, right? Well, where is that coming from, really, right? It's like, who hurt you, because that's where it comes from, right? It comes from pain. It comes from being crushed. And that is a natural thing that happens. So I'm not, if that's happened to you, you have my utmost sympathy. It's happened to me many times. And I'll tell you, it's just part of it. But don't let it make you give up that spark. When your faith is shaken, do not give up your faith. That is uh, that is priceless. Do not give that away. Breathe into the height of your heart. Make your rhythmic breath. Just energize your heart and your being with that. And if there's pain, you breathe into it. Let it flow. The other thing that happens, of course, when you hold a high ideal is it's overwhelming. You look around and you say, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it, right? And then you start to maybe despair. You say, well, I don't know if anything is just worth doing, right? I mean, and this is where the apathy comes in. It just doesn't seem like anything is good. And again, it comes from a pain. It comes from being crushed. And it comes from, weirdly enough, right? It comes from that ideal not being strong enough. You hold an ideal, it will be shattered. That is the reality. But can you hold those pieces anyway? Can you hold it even though it's been shattered? Can you still believe in it? Can you find a new way to put it together? There's beauty in the brokenness, and we can become whole again. Our hearts have that ability. The heart that is shattered can be healed. You just need more energy, more breath, more life. And this takes great courage. It takes courage to try again. It takes courage to get up again after you've been knocked down. We feel the pain, we might want to run from it. It takes courage to face that pain and feel it. To breathe into it and to learn lessons from it. To feel that your heart is still here, still alive, still reaching, still striving. The height is our greatness, and we all have that. That is an aspect of our being, because the truth of your heart and your soul and your spirit is that you are infinite. You are unlimited. You are perfect. You are eternal. When you tap into your ideal, you express that in your own unique way. And that is incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly compelling. It's a spark that everyone can see and feel. Now, of course, it's not always welcomed in this world. People may say you're a dreamer, right? You're not the only one, as the song goes. end our meditation there, and hopefully you've gotten a sense of what this is, this part of the vertical
Mm,
dimension, the height of the.
mm, wonderful. Wunderbar. Thank you.
Mhm.
Whew. Mm.
Mm. You know, Leah, you told me earlier that sometimes you have a hard time accessing this, and I was actually pretty stunned to hear that because I
I
think of
know.
you as having a very strong vertical dimension, very strong height
I
of the heart.
know. Well, it's just within the last few years, and I noticed that during our meditation too, also Tara, like that I was gonna say this too, that I could feel the resistance in my energy body, like as I breathed from my heart up.
Mm-hmm.
I could feel a lot of like almost stuckness, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that was going on. But in the last few years, I just went through so many different things that it's like it's not that I don't, because I like idealism is kind of like a part of my DNA. So I just
Right.
like I'm always going to be more idealistic than your average Jane, but but at the same time, it doesn't mean that I am not susceptible to having my heart crushed. It probably makes me more susceptible in that way.
Yeah.
And and I find that yeah, like that's something where I'm like, oh yeah, like there's definitely something here where it's just not like I'm not accessing the full energy that I could be accessing by opening up to the energy behind the ideal. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
the thing is like we're not in this alone, and that's why we're meditating is like we get so stuck in our own aloneness, you know, and we forget that there's actually like not only support with other people, but there's just energetic support constantly. You
Mm-hmm.
know, even if I just think of my chair as like supporting me right now, do you know what I
Right.
mean? And by like reopening this channel, or by not having it open, it's like I'm missing out on just a tremendous amount of energy that's out there. It's almost like that life force that wants to create, that wants to bring, you know, these certain ideals into life, that wants to bring life into form and to evolve. That part of life that wants to just continually evolve. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing out on all that energy because I haven't worked through something yet. And so, anyway,
I mean, there's so many
um,
layers to all this, right? I mean, like, because
mm-hmm,
the stronger your sense of the ideal is, well, the more you're going to take risks for it, right? And then it's like,
mm-hmm,
well, you're pushing, right? Because you take big risks, and sometimes that's not going to work out, right? Or it's not going to work out the way you hope, maybe. You know, I
totally.
think in the grand scheme of things, it works out, right? Like you make progress, but it's not the progress you were hoping for, or it's not the result you were hoping for, or because
Mm-hmm.
limited world, right? you
Right.
know.
Right.
So like
Um,
getting crushed is not some kind of defeat. It's a thing that happens. It happens to
just
us
part
all.
of it.
It's part of
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
part of it.
And this is why we see this as like fundamental tools, right? Because we get wounded and we heal, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not a one-time thing. That's a kind of a process, so
Mm,
it's better if we have good tools, and then we can you know heal faster,
absolutely.
heal more completely,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really reassuring, Asatar, you know, like this idea like that it's supposed to be shattered instead of feeling just like, oh, I'm such a failure, you know, like but it's like, you know, our ideals are supposed to be not achievable. It's actually a little bit reassuring. I'm like, oh, okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've known a lot of people who have really suffered from these pain points. They're in a lot of pain, basically.
Yeah.
And I hear it a lot, like it kind of like hides under this cloak of realism, the cloak of realism. The realism bypassing. I don't know. It's like when it's like I'm just being realistic.
Right.
And sometimes you are, like, sometimes you're being realistic, but sometimes you're actually just shutting your heart off from
You're
yourself.
hiding sometimes. Yeah, that's true. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's, like, important to be able to distinguish which of those are happening, um, for you, and I would say that it's, like, the these these kind of states that we get into, these, like, catastrophizing or purely negative mindsets that we all get
Mhm.
into, which is normal part of being human. That it's in those moments that we are really cut off from a stream of love. So with the vertical dimension, we work with the energy of love, and so we really try to go from our heart, reach up, and touch something, the ideal energy, which a lot of times is really connected with love and all the things that come from that, like happiness, for example. And so, um, when we reopen to that and then let it move through us again, and we're going to practice this in a minute, and let it move through our hearts and almost like wash through us and wash through the depths of our heart, it's going to really help reopen our hearts so that we can re-experience love fully in our hearts again. And that will decrease the pain a lot. So it's like, or decrease the cutoffness from our heart a lot. And it is like if your heart shut off one way or another, from pain, from something that happened that was painful for you, and it's still there, it's still in your heart, even though it's long gone or whatnot. Then you'll probably have to meditate and breathe through some pretty stormy stuff inside, or some real emotional pain that is still in your body. And so you kind of have to pass through those, guard dogs to the heart kind of thing. And that can be really overwhelming and scary. But I want to reassure you that your heart's never going to open, especially in meditation, especially if you're doing meditation, in your own accord, like of your own, like you're not, taking a bunch of drugs or something. You're going to have control over your experience, basically, like more control over your experience.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you come up against those spots, I just want to reassure you, your heart's not going to give you anything that your heart's not ready to process, and your heart has so much capacity. It's one of these weird, what's it called, like when it's like it's like two opposites at once. I can't think of it. But your heart's like both the holder of like the full capacity and the thing that might be wounded at the same time. It's
Yeah.
very strange.
Yeah.
um, and so just by reopening to this energy, there might be an initial pain, but after that, there will be so much more freedom and so much more openness, and you'll have so much more access to your natural state of happiness, etc.
It's like the heart is the wound and the heart's also the medicine. It's like the
Yes.
heart's the obstacle and it's also that which overcomes the obstacle. It's like it's because it's
Hmm.
all there, right? It's all there within you. So there's just so much um, that you have within you.
Exactly. It's very strange, but it's true. And I just find it like one of these things, like our heart is its own medicine. And it's like love is the own medicine for pain, even if that pain was caused from love.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does work. Okay, so we're gonna meditate with that. Um, and so, but yeah, so okay, go ahead and take your postures as you're ready, everyone. And so, as you start to deepen your breathing and connect, tune in with your heartbeat, your heart. I'm going to ask that we move into the water breath technique, which is in through the nose and out through your mouth. And so we're building off what we already have done. And so when you breathe in through your nose, so we're focusing, this is why where heart rhythm meditation gets interesting is there's all these layers. So you can stay with any of the layers. There's no wrong layer. But we're going to keep adding onto itself. And so you're doing water breath, feeling your heartbeat and breathing deeply in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then I'm going to ask you to focus on your heart. And as you breathe in through your nose, go from your heart and feel the energy, just like Asatar was leading us. Feel the energy go all the way up through your throat, third eye, crown chakra, all the way up into the stars in the sky. And then as you exhale out of your mouth, it's like all the light from all those stars, suddenly you feel and open up to that light washing down and through. So you feel it almost like a shower of love, a shower of light. And it's just washing all the way over your body and even through your heart and through to the depths of your heart. So take a few breaths just with that that sense of moving on your inhalation from your heart, feeling it move up all the way through your throat, third eye, crown, all the way up to the stars. And then exhaling through your mouth and allowing all of that light, all of the love, the universal love to wash over and through you, even through your heart, and especially emphasizing the depths of your heart. So, really feeling as you breathe the energy move through your heart and then even all the way to the depths of your heart, underneath your heart, the space underneath your heart, physically in your body. Now I'm talking about the light of the stars just shining on us constantly. It's such a perfect example of the unconditional nature of the energy of love. And so, even though I'm talking about light, I'm really trying to get you to feel, to tap into the constant energy of love that is ingrained in your ideal. It's like Asatar was talking about, that ideal that brings you so much joy, that energy that just lifts your heart up, that love, that energy of love, that energy of joy and happiness that comes from love. That's the energy you're tapping into as you inhale through your nose and reach up to your height. And that's the energy that as you exhale out of your mouth, that you allow to come in. It's like you allow it because it's already there. The sun is already shining, right? We're not holding the shield above our head right now, the shield of cynicism. We're not holding it above our head right now. We're putting our shield down. And we're opening up to that light that's already there, that universal energy of love. And then not only are we opening up to it, we're letting it wash through us. And that's what you do with your breath. Your breath helps you to direct the energy. And so you move that into those spaces, those tender parts in the depth of your heart. And I want to ask everyone and challenge everyone. So keep breathing this way, but tune in to the depth of your heart. Even though you're breathing this way, you're still just really having that deep focus on the very depth of your heart, and just ask your heart, is there something where I'm really closed off, where I'm not in my heart anymore? Is there something that has cut me off from love, from feeling it, receiving it, or giving it? Maybe it's always been there, that pain, that feeling of unworthiness, or that fear. Been there as long as you can remember, perhaps. And I want to invite you, so whatever you touch on, whatever it is inside of you, once you touch on it, you'll know because it's almost tender. It's just raw, really deep. What I want to invite you to do is to, with your next exhalation, really allow the energy that you're touching into and tapping into to direct it right into that tender space. So it's like you go from your heart on your inhalation, lifting up, reaching up, really feeling your ideal, feeling that energy that wants to come into creation, that wants to come into form, that spark, and feel all the stars in the sky just shining their light constantly. And as you exhale, bring all that light that's pouring down onto you, all that love, and let it in. Let it wash your heart, nourish your heart, and let it go in and through your deepest sense of disconnection, almost allowing that knot in your belly to start to gently unwind like it's blooming, like it's a curled up flower and you're watering it. So it'll gently open in its own time, revealing its beauty, revealing its fragrance. And it might take a very long time That's okay. Because it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Your heart is worth it. So it's really important, this mixing of something that's more subtle and ethereal, this energy. And like some people might even describe it as like this bliss energy. It's just high up there. You mix that with the denseness, you mix that with the earth, you bring it in and through you, you mix it into the clay that is your being. So you're totally not doing this alone, even though you're meditating alone or with friends. Even though we're all together, we're separate but alone, or together but alone as we meditate. Mm. But you're tapping into, with your breath, with your consciousness, you're tapping into energies that exist, that are bigger than you, and they flood your being. And you're using the clay of your body, the clay of your heart, mixing in this subtle energy that encompasses the energy within the profoundness of an ideal. And you're just letting that come into the deepest pain that your body's holding, the depth of your heart. Because there's so many things that are irreconcilable, so many things that happen to us that are just painful and irreconcilable. And that exists, that's in existence. And I'm not interested in bypassing that, but what I am interested in is that we don't have to cut ourselves off from universal love just because bad things happen. And so I dare you to breathe that energy right into the deepest part of your pain in your heart, in the depth of your heart, in the depth of your being. Feel how much life wants to support, bringing that love and that ideal into form. Just allow yourself to receive and see what happens. Because we need all of our hearts to continue to create our ideals. We need all of our hearts to be energized enough to do that, to do the work, to show up and to give and to receive and to really create what we want to, what we wish for the most. All right. As you're ready, you can totally keep breathing this way. Just keep massaging and energizing that one spot you found again and again and again. You could totally just keep going. And if you like to, go ahead and when you're ready, move your body and open up your eyes.
Nice meditation. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you. I needed that.
I feel like we each kind of get, we get to meditate more deeply. I mean, you meditate in a certain way when you're leading a meditation, right? And that's, that's extraordinary. But you also, like when you're being led, right? You get to experience it in your breath is more uninterrupted. Like that's what I'm noticing, right? That because when you're talking, right, your breath gets interrupted, and so I just appreciate that, like, just teaching with you because, like I get to kind of just hold the vibe, and, right.
I could feel you. I was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Look at this comment we got here from Yackleberry Finn. Nice to have you with us, my friend. Thank you, Leah and Dr. Bear. This is a very uplifting experience. Leah's prediction was right. Look at that. You were right.
Yay! At least for one person. Another person slammed their computer shut.
Leah was right. Yes.
Yay! Thank you so much. We love having you. We're so happy that you're meditating with us. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, next week we are going to continue on with the theme, and we're going to explore all the dimensions of the heart. So, stay with us for the whole series, and I think you'll see we're gonna build it up, right? So, we like to do themes occasionally. We don't do it all the time, right? Because we'll try to make every class be a standalone class. So, if you're tuning into just one class, it'll still make sense. But we also want to sort of develop progress a little bit, and for those of you who stay with us and so on, we appreciate that.
Yeah, you're in for some treats.
Leah is going to continue to be right. That's my prediction. Y'all are going to experience some stuff with us.
Something will happen.
Happen.
No, but you really are in for some treats with your heart. So yeah, we look forward to meditating with you soon. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or contact Asatar or I online. Asatar is on Twitter, as most people know, and I am on Instagram. And if you'd like to support the show, we are just doing this pro bono. So
we appreciate all the people who support
the show. We appreciate anything that,
and of course, please like and subscribe. That we don't go out of our way to say that, but you should do it anyway.
So thank you, but most importantly, happy meditating, everyone.
Keep meditating. The practice is in the daily practice part of it. So we'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.